different roles that a manager performs. We finished that in the last class. Today, we start off with the different barriers to communication. Okay, I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's begin with the different barriers to communication. Screen visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Now you see, let's have a brief introduction about barriers. Okay, you see, it applies to most of us. Okay, me included. See, if we look around us very carefully, we might find that there are some people who do not listen to others at meetings. Like, so if we attend a particular meeting, sometimes what happens is that instead of listening to what is being spoken, we are busy in our own work. Okay, so we begin to do multitasking. Okay, and you see, because of that, what happens? Many of them begin writing incomprehensible memos. Some do not value others' opinions. Okay, and you see, many times what happens that even though the communicator is very well prepared, that is, he or she is thoroughly prepared, they might commit mistakes. Okay, and even though the errors are less frequent, okay, or as serious as compared to people who are not paying attention at all. Okay, see, so what happens is that when the flow of communication it gets impeded, that means you begin to do different things, or you begin to pay scant attention to what is being spoken or being presented, then it is termed as a barrier. Okay, then it's termed as a barrier. And like I told you that while communicating, if we talk about communication, okay, there are different situations where communication acts as a barrier because uh, something extra or some third party or situation intervenes in it, and it becomes a barrier. It becomes very difficult to understand or interpret as to what is being spoken or what is being presented. And the first type is about the structure of the organization itself. You see, many times the structure itself acts as a barrier to communication. Okay. Now, question is how? What are the different organization structure types? We have a tall structure, we have a flat structure, we have a matrix structure. Okay, three common types of structure that we have. And in particular, we have a tall structure, flat structure, and a matrix structure. Particularly the tall structure, what happens is the hierarchy is very long. The hierarchy is very big. Okay, so we've got three levels, three hierarchy levels in any organization. You have the top management, the middle management, and the supervisory or the lower level of management. Since it's a tall structure, you might have the board of directors, you might have the chairman, below the chairman, you might have a flow of people in a particular direction. Okay, you might have the vice president, you might have the directors. Okay, all in the top run. In the middle level, you might have the general managers and the managers, leaders in the middle level of management. At the lower level, you might have the supervisors and the experts, the workers, all squeezed into the lower level. So what happens is that At all the levels, the top level, if communication has got to flow from the top to the bottom, which it does, okay, feedback flows from bottom to top. So what happens that if the chairman has got to pass on a piece of information, the information will pass on from the chairman to the chief executive officer to the board of directors, that is the top level. From there, it permeates to the middle level where it has different departmental heads. Okay, and below the departmental heads, you might have different in charges or flow shop experts. So that communication flows through that particular, and then it flows to the supervisors, and from the supervisor to the workers. Okay, you see many times what happens is that since the structure, the top part, the organization structure is very rigid. Okay, in the case of a tall structure. Okay, that it has got, it cannot bypass any level or any authority. It has got to flow in a manner which has been outlined. Okay, or the protocol which has been made. It cannot tend to overlook or bypass a particular level or particular tip. By the time that piece of information reaches the bottom level, okay, it might have lost all relevance. And that is why feedback is not guaranteed because it has lost relevance or it has already been served at the lower level. What happens that feedback is not required, feedback is not guaranteed. And what happens is that since the lower level have been deprived because the feedback they gave was stopped at the middle level, they did not know, so they might not come to know as to what the outcome was. And hence what happens is that a wall of distrust begins to be created between the lower level and the middle level, or between the top level and the middle level. Okay, and that again acts as a barrier to communication. Like the top management, okay, might decide on the policy matters and they must not involve the middle level management. So they call the board of directors, they call the vice presidents, the president, all forming in the top level, the CEOs. Okay, what happens? The chairman, they discuss with them, and a decision is taken, and the decision that has been taken is sent to the middle level. The middle level might feel that look, why weren't we made a part of this? So because the decision has already been taken, you don't need to give feedback. You've got to accept. Okay. So the middle level, you don't give a feedback to the top and decide it at a vertical level itself. Similarly, they pass on that piece of information to the left because even the supervisor staff or uh, the workers union, they also need to be informed. And the part they are only informed and no feedback is asked because it's a decision. And what happens is that a sense of distrust or a sense of belongingness, it goes out the window altogether. And you see, it is the structure and complexity of this protocol which gives rise to communication barriers. So, what the first point here, the organizational structure. Next is difference in status. Now, again, what happens? I told you now difference in status when we talk about. Now we come to the middle. This generally happens in the middle level management because here, what happens? You have people from different departments or departmental heads or in charges all sitting at one level. Now, if there's a bottleneck or a congestion which needs to be discussed at this level itself, what happens? You might find people from different departments or different departmental heads, they all offering their advice, even though they are not experts on that. And that what happens is that given the chances of communication might break. Some of them might say that okay, this can be removed, but it'll cost revenue. Then again, when the revenue matters comes, we find that the head of the accounts department they put the foot down that look, we cannot spend that. So everywhere you see, in order to prove their superiority, what happens is that there's total chaos or mayhem, and many people, okay, since the ego has not been complied with, okay, what happens? The decision does not take place as companion. For example, I tell you, in one of the departmental institute, an elevator was supposed to be constructed, okay, as per the rule of the ACT, and you see that we need to have the elevators for the elderly faculty as well as the physically disabled students. Okay, so now one of the vendors, okay, was given the job, assigned the job. They began to work, and suddenly what happened? I know nothing happened, and the entire work came to a standstill. Okay, and then the vendor ran over because when he came back, the cost of the raw materials had shot up. It escalated, and the institute said, no, we had this contract that you're supposed to complete this work within this much. So the vendor refused to work and he went away. Now that work was stalled for 2.5 years. Now that the institute is about to be opened, okay, full swing, all the students, so we need to have infrastructure in place. So we again raised hue and cry as what happened over the left. We got to know that since vendor A was given this task, the cost of the project was maybe 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs. Okay. But due to the pandemic, the work is stalled, and when the vendor came again, the cost for raw materials had gone up. He gave a new project that look, if we have to work, there's a new cost, and instead of 10 lakhs, the cost would now be 15 lakhs. The institute objected that to financial matters, and nobody was willing to sign, and the vendor went away. Now a third party came in after 2 years because after the hue and cry, 6 months ago, the third party comes and he says, I cannot do it for less than 20 lakhs. Now the project which was supposed to be done under 10 lakhs has now gone up beyond 20 lakhs. Okay, and now nobody is willing to sign. Why? Not to take out the order. Why? Because they are afraid that if they sign on the dotted line or if they issue the purchase order, in the audit they'll have to justify as to why was it worth. It's supposed to finish within 3 months to 3 years to complete. So nobody is willing to sign. The question is, who will build the cat? And again, we are back to square zero. Okay. So now you see, because this what happens that different people give different views that okay, cost is very high, we need to change the vendor, okay, or we need to change the size. And some wise gentleman he cracked. Why do we need to have an elevator in the first place? We can do without the elevator. Why? Because his department has it and the other one does not. So that became an internal fight between these departmental heads. And what happened? No decision could be reached. So if there is a difference in status where you have people from different departments or people higher in authority having discussion with the people low down in rank, chances are very high that communication might break down and this barrier might get developed. The third type is lack of trust. Now, this is a very important thing. You see, unless and until you are specified, you're told what your specific role is in the organization, you're delegated certain authorities and powers to act on, you'll always feel that you don't belong here. Okay, unless and until certain powers are vested on you to get the work done. The sense of belonging is not to feel that you might be removed or you have been given a work on contract. So the sword of Damocles is always hanging on your head. Okay. And similarly, one of your colleagues has been made a group leader or a team leader, and now since they have been made a group leader, they have got to tender to more different responsibilities. They have got to draw a line now. Look, friendship and jokes after 4 p.m., after 5 p.m. I am no more longer an employee of this organization for the day. I can talk to you as a friend in a formal manner. What if I am in the confines of this institute or this organization or the premises? I'm your boss. I will have to behave in a more formal manner. And then again, this wall creeps in or this wall begins to be built. Some people perceive that look, this man, the moment he became the group leader, okay, what has happened is that he has developed an attitude, there's an air of authority about him. He or she is sharing information with us. Okay, now what happens suddenly? Uh, both the groups they try to alienate themselves from the other group. Okay, and a semantic gap or a barrier gets in because group A, the team leader now he sees that he's beginning to lose his trust, his whole lot. So he'll have to work more on so that he can regenerate that trust, to recreate that trust or to get back that lost credibility might take ages. So as a group leader, as a team leader, okay, the onus is on the individual to make sure that he or she or rather they don't lose credibility and that trust is not broken. Okay. Similarly, on the part of the group members or the colleagues, we're going to make sure they're going to respect that look, since one of us has become the team leader, certain responsibilities have been given to him, and he or she has got to act in that manner, and one should not feel that the other person is not giving him respect or not sharing information or sharing the same space with him. You see, establishing credibility or building trust among subordinates or with colleagues it is a very difficult task. And the subordinates might not know whether the manager or the boss will respond in a supportive or a responsible way. So therefore, it is very necessary for the manager to ensure that he can instill faith and maintain that trust and credibility with one and all. Okay. The next type of barrier is closed communication climate. Now, different organizations have got different work cultures, different work climate. If an organization has got a closed communication climate, the first one, tall structure, I told you, that all the decision making is done at the top management without inviting suggestions of people from the lower level. That is called a closed communication climate. So if you don't interact with the lower range of people, what happens is that uh, the work culture or the work climate will be termed as a closed communication climate. If you interact also with the lower one, you interact with only a select few with whom you feel very comfortable and not with everyone. And if that is the case, it is told to be a closed communication climate. So if you have a closed communication climate, what happens is that the free and open exchange of information characterizes good communication is not there. So as a manager, as a boss, as a leader, one needs to make sure that the work climate or the communication climate is open to suggestions from everyone. Okay, people feel free to come to you if they have any doubts or they want to discuss any issues with you. You're open to them, and then you have the incorrect choice of medium. That's while you're communicating, you've got to select the appropriate platform or medium through which you can communicate. Okay, like I said that right now we're having this online class and we're having a class and the medium for the class is online. Okay, or the online mode. And I'm sitting at one corner of the IT. Most of you, or most of my students, they scattered across the country, and some of them are within the campus as well. They are attending class from the hostel rooms. Now, those who are in very remote areas, okay, what happens is that they might find difficulty in getting proper network connectivity, and the words might reach late to them, or the sound might not be very, they might not be very audible to them, or while I'm speaking, my voice might crack, or it might be disrupted. Because I don't know that these problems are happening, and I see that when there's no response coming from a particular section, I might feel offended and okay, if you're not interested, please don't be there. And then you call back and say, sir, where I stay or where I work, okay, there's very poor network connectivity, and that is why whatever you were speaking or whatever you were writing on the screen, okay, was not clearly visible to us because of proper network connectivity. The screen always froze because of proper network connectivity. Your voice, okay, did not reach us instantly. Took time for the words to reach us, and that too definitely static. So again, if this is the case, what happens is that you feel that you have covered everything spoken, okay, and you expect a response from the other side and you don't get a response, you become very agitated and you even take some steps. Okay, so this again creates a rift or a barrier. Okay, the incorrect choice of medium while you're communicating. That this is one example. Like, there might be so many cases. Like I want to get a building or a structure built up. Okay, so there's one is that I might call the architect and the builder and I might tell them verbally that look, this is a plot of land and I want to have a five-story building. On the ground floor, you'll have six rooms. On the left side or on the right, each classroom will have two doors and eight windows. On the first and two washrooms having this dimension. And then I tell them on the first floor, you'll have a conference room, classroom, and five faculty cubicles. What will happen? The architect and the builder, they will not understand what I'm speaking. They'll give me a very zapped look. Because the medium that I chose was verbal communication. Would it have been better that I got a blueprint made by the architect? Okay, I told him to prepare a blueprint of my requirements, and then I called the builder and the architect showed him the blueprint. The moment the builder sees the blueprint, he says, agreed, this can be done, this will be, I will get the estimate for your work, and everything is fine. Okay, so selection of medium plays a very important role. If the selection of medium for communicating is not correct, there has got to be a barrier to communication. Was I clear so far? Yes, was it clear to all of you?
Hello, sir. You're not audible, sir.
Yes, Harshvardhan, I'm waiting for your response. Ask your question.
Sir, actually, the question was not audible, sir. You were teaching, I heard it, sir.
Yeah, I want to ask whatever has been covered so far. Was it clear to all of you? Was it audible to all of you? Could you
Yes,
hear?
sir. Yes, sir.
And if so, I can move forward. So this much was clear, right, Harshvardhan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on. Now we come to physical barriers. Okay. Under physical barriers, there are three type of barriers again. We have the environment, we have distance, and again we have got ignorance of medium. But under physical barriers. So under physical barriers, the first barrier that I'm talking about is the environment, that is the existing environment. Okay. Uh, Like right now, while I'm taking a class, okay, there might be while I'm speaking, my voice might not be audible to you. There might be some static, or it might show me that it is raining in your location, raining, thundering, and you are unable to pay attention to what the speaker is speaking. Okay, and since your attention is divided between the adverse weather conditions and what is being spoken, okay, which is coming in a distorted manner, the call is getting dropped. This physical environment itself, okay, becomes a barrier to communication. So you see, it's mentioned as one barrier due to the existing environment or the existing physical environment. Okay, the second one is distance. Now, distance again plays a very important role in determining the course of our conversation. So like I gave you an example that I'm sitting at one place and my students is spread across across the country. Take another example in the case of distance, and the other one. Within the institute, you see the institute building itself, there are so many departments. We have the mechanical, we have the electrical. Okay, and in the research and development, in the R&D wing, we have the other departments of computer science, the remote sensing, so on and so forth. And just behind the institute building, we have the biotech, we have mathematics, we have pharmaceutical sciences. Okay, but some departments are quite far away from the institute building. Okay, one such department is the Department of Management. It is next to the dispensary. Since you are senior vice students, you must have seen the dispensary. You must be knowing how far it is from the institute building. Now, when I had offline classes in the previous semesters, okay, when we had offline classes, okay, I had many times I had to keep running from my department to the main building, institute building to take classes. Okay, maybe that if I have many days, what used to happen that I had a class from 9 to 9:15 the institute building, from 10 to 10:15 my department. Okay, so there's a gap of only 10 minutes, and distance was long, quite long. And while one begins to teach, they don't teach by academic clock. They might stop 5 minutes before, or the class might stretch on some days. What used to happen? I had to rush back to my department. Okay, this took not less than 10 to 15 minutes, and then here my class got this. To see if this be the case, okay, distance adds a better communication because everyone was late in some places and I could not finish the points on time. So then, like you have your hostel in your first year, you had your hostel just to the main entrance, right? Hostel number 7. And you had your class first in the morning and you had to run helter skelter to the institute building, which was not less than 2.5 kilometers from hostel number 7. Again, you had to rush back to have lunch in the afternoon, break for 50 minutes, again, rush back to your class. So, distance again, you see, if you get late by 5 or 6 minutes, and many times you had your timetable was such that you have your theory class, and just for the theory class, you have a lab or some subject for which you go out of the institute building, go to the institute building, and then again you got to rush back. And if you get late for the next class, you're not allowed to enter the class. Okay, so you see a distance again plays a very important part in determining the course of conversation. And the truth is that if people are made to sit at different corners of the organization, okay, different corners of different parts of the building, okay, or on different floors, they might have to substitute face-to-face communication with phone calls or emails. Like that also happened. But today, since our department is quite far off, we communicate, and due to pandemic also, we are having more conversations instead of having face-to-face conversations. We interacting through the online mode, and or we are getting the communique delivered through mail. So a physical contact is not there. We can read the agenda or the minutes, the meeting, and then we can join a particular meeting online. But that acts as a barrier to communication. Okay, and here the third one is Ignorance of medium. The first one was wrong choice of medium. Here you know the medium, but you ignore it. Communication does not mean that you only speak or you write, that is communication or communication. No. But we have another form of communication known as non-verbal communication or sign language. Okay, so even that communicates a lot. Where when you enter the institute building, you find that there are so many signages across the campus, each pointing out towards the institute building, some to the gym, yes, some to the staff quarters, some towards the hostels, and the numbers are listed. So we have signage, isn't it? The moment you enter the main gate, okay, you have the security people, okay, and there's a big board out there which mentions the drive limit that you should not drive, okay, for 20 to 30 kilometers. That might cause a mishap or some accident. So what happens? Do we agree to these signages? Because there's no one to stop us on the only signages. We never pay heed to such instructions or such piece of communication. Okay, where we are moving on the highway, we're driving very fast, and there's a sign which says that steep curve ahead or steep bend ahead, go slow. What we do, we instead of driving slowly, we begin to fly on that piece of land, and a mishap occurs, and then we blame the government that there was no signage, there was no signal, so on and so forth. So ignoring a particular medium for communication, that also acts as a barrier to communication. Okay, like when you go to the school or the hospital, okay, mention that please don't blow your horn, and we apply pressure horn so that we can create a ruckus out there. When you move towards the hospitals or towards road place, we never tend to believe on the speed limits. Very well knowing what are speed limits, we never obey those speed limits. So ignorance of medium acts as a better communication. Like recently with this pandemic, okay, even verbally and through the mass media of communication, okay, we have the with the head of the country, Narendra Modi ji, telling the citizens of the country that we are still having the fight with this pandemic. So we need to still exercise caution that we should not remove our masks. We should avoid going into crowded places and still maintain a distance of 2 meters or 6 feet. Okay, because the pandemic is yet to go away. It is constantly coming back in a new form. We have had so many variants of the pandemic. But what are we doing? The moment we see that the cases have dropped, what are we doing? We're removing the mask, we're going towards crowded places. And now, what are we doing? That since we have been vaccinated, we feel that we have got nothing wrong can happen to us. Because the government says that even if you fall sick, it won't be critical. If we लगा यार बुखार ही तो होएगा ना, I'd be down with a common flu. I can take that. I won't put on a mask. Okay, I won't sanitize myself. What happens? You become a super spreader. Okay, because you're ignoring that piece of communication, and that again becomes a barrier. So, once again, to all of you, fine. So, we stop here for the day. Meet again tomorrow, and we'll try to finish off with barriers of communication tomorrow. So, you all can leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.